Hey, welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joel Markwit.
And I'm Antonia Dodge. If you listen to our podcast, you probably have heard us talk about the HAT model. The HAT model is a model we use to understand personal development in some of its subcategories. HAT stands for Healing, Achievement, and Transcendence. And we have a tendency to stick with the achievement component of personal development here at Personality Hacker. But the healing component is incredibly important. And one aspect of healing that I don't know if we've ever really covered is healing the body.
Yeah.
Our physical traumas are just as big a part of our journey and our process as any other component of personal development.
Yeah, so we'd love to talk about that today. And in fact, we've brought one of our friends, Bill Parravano. He's online, he's known as the knee pain guru. He's an expert at helping people solve pain issues in their knees without shots, surgery, drugs, or any kind of artificial means. He helps people solve this pain in their body. And we thought we'd bring him on today to talk specifically about pain in the body, about healing, about staying healthy and managing that in your life. So welcome, Bill, to Personality Hacker.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Bill. So you and I have actually been friends for quite a while. And when I think of my short list of go-to people that know their stuff around physical health and taking care of their bodies, you always make my short list. You've said things in the past that have just resonated with me so strongly and helped me reframe how I understand how the body works and operates. But you deal with pain elimination instead of just pain management. Can you give us an overview of what that means?
Absolutely. Pain management is what most people are familiar with. They believe that what they're experiencing in their body, whether it be an injury, an accident, a trauma, old age, is just how it is. And they're going to manage this pain and have this long, slow decay until they die. And it's just not a very appealing proposition in terms of looking at life. And pain elimination is how I approach the body, how I look at healing. And in terms of pain elimination, that's where I'm going on the premise that the body has the infinite capacity to heal itself. It knows how to heal and do what it needs to do so we can live an amazing life. And in doing so, you have to look at the body, what you're doing, through a different lens. Look at the body in a way that, like a system. And what we're putting into that system is spitting out a certain result. And we start tweaking and tinkering with those parts of the system to spit out the results that we're looking for. And the first step to leading that vibrant, healthy life is to make sure we're not in pain all the time. So that's my idea and understanding of the body, just looking at it differently, where we're really playing the game to win and not playing the game just not to lose.
You remind me of something that someone told me about 5 years ago that reframed me. The person said, never underestimate the body's ability to heal itself. And that really changed how I saw my own body. And you just basically said that. You just said your belief is that our bodies have the ability to self-heal, to make themselves whole again. And I think that's a really interesting concept because before that, I never really thought of that. I did think that my body was in a slow decay to death. It was going to get worse and worse. And if something went wrong, there was nothing I could do to fix it. I had to preserve my body in pristine condition. If I tried anything or I got hurt, there was no coming back from that. So I actually didn't take a lot of risks in my life as much because I felt like maybe my body couldn't recover from that. I'm not encouraging anyone to take risks, but I really like that reframe of the body's ability to heal. I think that's really, really powerful way to see it. So you specialize in particular pains in people. You're known as the knee pain guru guy, right? So you help people with a specific part of their body, which are the knees, which can often go bad as you age or in life or just from wear and tear through our normal lives, basically. But my guess is that because that's where you specialize, that's what you do a lot of your online work with, your coaching, things of this nature. But based on that, you have some basic principles of health, because it's not just knees you deal with, it's the whole body. It's a system that's running, right? So I guess what I'd love to talk about right now is maybe some philosophical notions in more of a abstract way, and then maybe get concrete in a little bit. But abstract thoughts, like how do you approach general health? I know you said the body heals itself, and you kind of have that as a premise, but what else? Like, give us kind of a holistic picture of how you approach general health, healing, staying healthy, philosophically. How does that come down?
Right, because when you're coaching with people, I'm sure you've picked up some of you just mentioned one of the perspectives that people have, which is that you really can't do a lot about pain except for manage it. What are some of what you've observed, some of people's beliefs or perspectives around pain or their body or dealing with body traumas or healing that you think are actually keeping people in a cycle of pain and not allowing their body to heal itself?
Well, I think the big thing is that they settle. They accept that they're in pain and there's nothing they can do about it. And they buy into like the story in society. No pain, no gain. Just do it. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Suck it up and push through the pain. All of these concepts kind of rattle around in people's brains, and I believe they think there's something less of them, or they're less of a person if they don't suck it up, push through the pain, just do it. And it just sets them up for failure. It's this belief that if they don't keep up, they're going to somehow be left behind.
We were talking a little bit before the podcast on these concepts around like suck it up, no pain, no gain. These societal messages that we get around why we should be experiencing pain in the body. And with no pain, no gain, I always think of that in like a dude wearing a shirt that says that in the gym as he's doing resistance training. Like there's this idea of if we want to grow, if we want to push our bodies to a stronger place, then yeah, that's going to take us out of our physical comfort zone. That is going to require some pain to get there. But then it feels like we absorb that message not in when we're doing things like resistance training. We absorb that message as like a general rule, like we should be in pain somehow.
Understand that being in pain is contextual. If you're in the gym and you're doing a workout and the workout is going to last 30 minutes, 45 minutes, couple hours, or you have a specific event that you're preparing for or involved in, absolutely, you need to suck it up and push through the pain. However, what people do is extrapolate that out to everything else in their life. That it's like, well, I'm going to suck it up and I'm not going to eat good food after I train. I'm going to suck it up and I don't need to bring any water with me during the day. I'm going to just drink the coffee, or I'm going to eat the candy bar because, well, I just need to suck it up. That's all I have for food. So it's like there's no self-care in the process of different contexts of their life. They take that suck it up, push through the pain, just do it, and have this blanket statement about their entire existence. So there's no recovery built into what they're doing on a daily basis. Well, the body becomes a finite resource if you don't give it more resources or what it needs to stay healthy and thrive.
Yeah, well, basically, it's this notion that when we take a principle that we apply to achievement, right? We talked about the HAT model. Achievement is I'm trying to go to, I'm trying to get to I'm trying to get to a more scaled up place. I'm trying to take what I have and, go up a level. I'm trying to level up, basically. We're not really talking about that with a context of healing. Like, healing is not about leveling up. Healing is not about getting to the next level of a goal. When we hear no pain, no gain, that could very easily be applied to an achievement mindset, but it's toxic if you apply it to a healing mindset. If you apply it to dealing with traumas, is that essentially what you're trying to say?
Right. Because you can't even get the baseline. You're not. It's like you're you're in the middle of the ocean without a life raft. You're going to sink eventually. You're going to get tired out, and there's nothing there to support you.
So as you're talking, two things are coming up to my mind. The first is something you mentioned about mindset. You alluded that, the mental state you're in, or the perception you have, or the mindset you have is very important. And the other thought that came to my mind is speed in our lives. Not the drug speed, but how fast our lives are paced. And I was wondering if, like, optimal health and healing, they always say, well, healing takes time, right? You hear that phrase a lot. And I wonder if also, based on that, you could extend it to say health takes time. In other words, if you're living a life where you're running from one meeting to another, and all this, right before we got on the air here, I had to eat. So I was like rapidly trying to eat before we got on the air. I was rushing my food intake. And it probably is not very healthy to do that because of the speed I was operating at. And the thought came to my mind, like, I probably need to take time to eat properly, chew my food properly, spend the time I need to spend to stay healthy in how I nourish my actual body. And I wonder if a lot of us, we live unhealthy lives and we're willing to accept pain because we're running from meeting to meeting. It's easier to pop a pill or to just grab a medicine really quick to dull the pain rather than take the time to actually heal the pain that we need to heal.
No, absolutely. There's a component of that that's involved. And then there's also, you could thin slice any of this. It's one thing to rush and eat a meal before you have to, be in a meeting or something like that. And then you look at, what did you eat? Did you just have a candy bar and you rushed and then got to the meeting? Or did you have a bowl of soup that's been on the stove for the entire morning, like cooking, and you have like really good broth in there and chicken and vegetables and carrots, and you ate that meal down? You're both rushing a meal in both situations, but which one is going to leave you more prepared for the meeting that you're going to? So I think it's all context that, or you do what you can, and there's the default to living in the fast-paced society, fast food type of society. Well, I'll just get a hamburger at McDonald's, or I'll just, wolf down something that you get at the gas station, which isn't cutting it.
What, in your observation, are the biggest causes of chronic pain in the body? Is it pre-existing conditions? Is it aging? Is it physical traumas from accidents? Like, what are the different reasons why we have chronic pain?
Well, definitely physical trauma, accidents, injuries, stress in life, experiences, thoughts, emotions that build up in the physical body. But all of those, it doesn't matter which one you choose, are all symptoms of stress and tension that builds up in the nervous system. Bottom line, end of story. There isn't anybody that can change my mind on this one.
Can you unpack that a little bit, what that means?
Well, yeah. The body is either moving from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state and back and forth. And there's just different degrees of sympathetic or parasympathetic states in the body. And these sympathetic and parasympathetic states can be localized. So you have, for instance, you could sit there as you're listening to this podcast and you could squeeze your hand. And the rest of your body can be relaxed except for the squeezed hand. Well, the body can do the very same thing. The body is able to isolate tension, isolate stress. That tense hand does have somewhat an effect on the rest of the body, but a good majority of that tension could be isolated. So in the hand, it's in a sympathetic state. Maybe in the rest of the arm, it's a parasympathetic state. So anytime we have a trauma, an accident, an injury, an emotional experience, a mental stress, whatever it is, it has a physical reaction in the body. When that builds up over time, that stress and tension builds up in the nervous system. Everybody, you ask 100 people, probably 99.9% of them will agree, well, they'll call that old age. Well, that's just what happens when you get older. And if you understand the body on a deep enough level, which means looking at it from a nervous system perspective, you could begin to release that tension and stress by understanding when the body is in a sympathetic or a parasympathetic state. Using the reflexes, the same reflexes that your body taps your knee with a hammer and your knee jumps and you can't control that, your body will hold onto or let go of tension using those same reflexes. Most people know when they have localized tension because it hurts.
Right.
Their back's stiff, their neck hurts, their jaw's tight, their knees are in pain, they stub their toe. They know when they have localized tension. They understand the sympathetic response of the nervous system. What they don't understand is the parasympathetic response and how to engage those reflexes. People talk about it peripherally in terms of recovery. Oh, I need to get plenty of sleep. I need to get 8 hours of sleep. I need to stretch. I need to drink water. I need to eat good food. But that's really on a superficial level. Most people don't know how to listen to their body in a way to understand how to engage the reflexes so their body can let go of tension and stress that build up just as easily as it was picked up.
And so how does a person do that?
Well, first they need to admit that it exists. I think that's the first step. Most people, and I'm sure you're well aware, is most people will look at their body in the frame of what they already know. They'll go, oh, well, you mean stretching? You mean like yoga? Oh, so it's just like yoga, what you do. Well, no, not at all. Oh, so you mean it's like stretching before an athletic event? No, that's not the stretching that I'm talking about. So you mean it's quiet, like meditation? No, not really, because there's lots of people with knee pain that can sit on top of a mountain for 10 years and still limp down. So it's not necessarily just getting your body into a relaxed state. We have to work with the intrinsic movement of the joints that have held on to protect the body from getting injured further. When it's in that place, there's a disconnect between the brain and the body. It doesn't know what it's doing. It's like the person that walks around with their shoulders up towards their ears, and you're like, hey man, why are you so tense? What do you mean? I'm not tense. And then you point out their shoulders to them, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize my shoulders were up so high. Well, the awareness and realization that the body can let go of tension that way is like the first step to begin working with the nervous system in a way that allows the tension and stress to let go easily.
I heard recently that tension is built up unconsciously and relaxation is a conscious process. So we absorb tension unconsciously throughout the day. We don't think about getting tense. It's not like I set out to go to a stressful meeting with somebody or talk to a conversation with somebody and go, I'm going to get tense in this meeting or conversation. It just happens like unconsciously for me. And in order to release that tension, I have to be more consciously involved. I think that's what you're saying. You're saying to have conscious attention on the aspects of your body that might be tense, might be carrying pain. And that consciousness is what we're going to have to focus on to release that tension. It's got to be a conscious process, unlike building the tension in the first place, which is very different. So the other part of this too is it seems like there's a narrative around pain. I remember listening to a Radiolab episode, a couple years ago on pain, and they were talking about how our perception of pain really changes how we manage it in our body, like the perception and the narrative around it. They were using an illustration of if you're walking through a dark alley and you get shot by some mugger in a dark alley, like instantly your thoughts are flooded with, oh no, what's going to happen to my wife and kids? What's going to happen to my life? Like I'm bleeding out in this dark alley. What a terrible ending to my life. Whereas if maybe you're fighting for your country or in a war, you're defending your homeland and you get shot, you think in terms of, and you're a soldier, you might think in terms of, oh no, I've been shot, but I'm going to be honored. I'll get a medal. Maybe they'll build a statue in my honor. And it literally changes your perception about getting shot or the pain you're going through because of the story you have around that. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that people's narratives, the stories they have around the pain in their lives matters?
Absolutely. A lot of people think they're deserving of it, or that's just how, like, they accept it, they settle for that's how it is. And in doing so, they sell themselves short. Their life, the quality of life is greatly diminished, and they play the game not to lose as opposed to playing the game of life to win.
What was so interesting about what you said is not just that people accept it, but you started out by saying that people think they deserve it. Have you noticed with the people and the clients that you coach, this is not necessarily your area of expertise, although maybe it is. Maybe it's something that you've had to really decode for those people that you coach. But the root of thinking that you deserve pain, you've already mentioned some of the societal memes we get, no pain, no gain. And we might be superimposing this message we get about achievement onto how we experience our own healing process, which is this idea of like, I should just be sucking it up, when it's not that I'm trying to get better. It's that I'm like actually trying to heal from trauma. So it could be parts of that. But have you, I think you mentioned before we started rolling on this podcast, you said pain is an emotion. So this idea of like people feeling like they deserve the pain they have, and this concept that pain is an emotion. Can you unpack that a little bit? Some of those like experiences you've had with your clients, or maybe some stories that illustrate the point, or maybe just some observations you've made around pain being an emotion and people thinking they deserve it.
When someone describes pain, they describe it as a feeling. That in and of itself is descriptive of an emotion. The pain, they'll describe the pain as it hurts, it burns, it shoots, it's tight, it's tender. They may even indicate pain as being ticklish. And it's because of tension and stress that builds up in the nervous system. And in dealing with pain, most people address it on a physical level. They look at it like, I need to strengthen the muscles in my legs, my calves, my quads, my core. I need to strengthen my core. But in actuality, the feeling of pain is still there. Strengthening the core has nothing to do with the feeling and experience of pain. So people get stuck in this loop of trying to essentially strengthen a dysfunctional tension pattern that is resulting in an emotion where they feel pain. So it's like they're trying to hug somebody with straight arms. You just can't quite do it. You never quite get there. You may get kind of like the sensation or the feeling like you're getting relief. But once again, they're like, I think it's a little bit better. I think it's kind of better. But you could think of getting rid of pain like removing a splinter from your finger. In actuality, getting the pressure off of the nerve that's causing the pain is the key. So when you remove a splinter from your finger, to that point it's been annoying. It's been bothering. You may even been infected, so the pressure in the finger continues to get worse. But the moment you pull that splinter out, the relief is immediate. And you get the sense that even though the finger may still hurt, it's going to heal now. It's really going to go away, like the pain's going to go away. And most people are kind of like, if I push through the pain or I suck it up, the knee kind of feels better, or the pain in my body sort of feels different. But it's not as bad as it used to be, so I can continue on, or I can deal with it better.
So, Bill, this is something I'm going to have to chew on a little bit, this idea that pain is an emotion. Like I said earlier, it seems like perception or narrative of pain is different for different things. I've noticed that I've been like active with my kids, and all of a sudden, like 2 hours later, I looked down at my arm and there's a bruise. I'm like, how did I bruise my arm? I must have bumped it on something. And then I'll have a vague memory of like walking through the living room and banging on a table when I'm like active with my kids, and because I'm so active, I forget that it's even hurting until later. Then it comes back to hurt. I'm like, wait, what's going on here? So I can kind of see how it's an emotion. It's something that could be blocked out if you're like doing something active or exciting in your life, or you're distracted, and then all of a sudden it comes back and you're like, why is this hurt? Or it could be something that builds up tension like we've been talking about. I want to shift gears a little bit here. Again, we talked really abstract, which I think is really important to understand some of these concepts at a high level, but how do we apply this in actual physical pain? And I know you're the knee pain guru guy. And in fact, at the end of the podcast, we'll ask you where people can find you online. But right now, let's take what you do, which is help solve people's knee pain. Paint us a picture. Maybe there's a process or some steps you walk people through in order to solve their knee pain, and we could build a model of dealing with pain in general from that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a 3-step process everyone must go through in order to completely resolve knee pain. And understanding these, it's fundamental. The first is physical, the second is diet, and the third is mindset. So on the physical piece, what happens is when the body experiences pain, a trauma, an accident, an injury, it tenses up to protect itself. That tension reduces the space in the joint. Now it could be the knee joint, the hip joint, the spine, the neck, the shoulder, the elbow, whatever it is. You could pick the joint, it doesn't matter. That reduction of space irritates the nerves more, causing more pain. And that pain causes the body to tense up more, reducing more space and causing more pain. So essentially the body gets stuck in a pain tension loop. And it doesn't know how to get out of there exactly by what the example you used before. You know, it's like I had this bruise and you were playing with your kids before, but you don't remember how that happened. So there's a disconnect between the mind and the body. All it experiences is pain. So it's stuck in this pain tension loop. What needs to happen is we need to create what I refer to as a pain pattern interrupt. And the pain pattern interrupt gets the pressure off of the nerves that are only the width of an eyelash. When you get the pressure off of the nerves, it creates more space. That space creation is comfortable. When comfort is created, the joint relaxes. The body begins to relax. It moves from a sympathetic to a parasympathetic state. And the more space you create, the more comfortable it is. The more space you create, the more comfortable it is. So these pain pattern interrupts begin to move the body into a state that's ideal for recovery. And that's first and foremost, that's what needs to happen in order for the body to be able to heal what's going on. So the first step is creating these pain pattern interrupts on the physical level. The next is diet. And what I'm referring to specifically is inflammation. When the body experiences pain, there's local inflammation where the pain is experienced. There's also global inflammation in the body as a result of the foods that we eat, the water that we drink, the air that we breathe. Stress in life creates inflammation globally in the body. So now you have local inflammation in the knee and global inflammation in the body that uses up the total amount of the available healing resources the body has to heal the pain. Well, when you have all of that inflammation, the ability of the body to heal what's going on where there's pain slows down tremendously. You could think of it like cookies that build up on your computer. I was just surfing the internet, and then all of a sudden it takes like 3 days for your computer to boot up. But the moment you go in there and clear the cache of all those programs that were building up, now your computer runs like it did the day you got it. So that's the same concept of inflammation. You set up the conditions on the physical level where the body feels comfortable, then you begin to reduce the inflammation, and you're removing the blocks that's preventing the body from healing. The third component is mindset. And the mindset piece is not always keeping a positive mindset. The reality of getting out of knee pain is it's not linear. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. But on those bad days, it's important to do things that are going to continue to support the healing process. Continue to create the pain pattern interrupts. Continue to reduce the inflammation in the body. I have a client that when she experiences the pain in her knees, she gets depressed. When she gets depressed, she eats chocolate. Well, the chocolate has sugar, the sugar causes inflammation, and now her body's in pain longer because of the sugar that the body needs to process now, as opposed to just the nature of the ebbs and flows of pain in the body, the good days and bad days. And in the same respect, like we were using that example of pulling the splinter out of the finger, there's immediate relief. Many people who experience that relief by creating a pain pattern interrupt, and now the pressure isn't on the nerve, they immediately want to go out and exercise and live their life like it did before they got in pain. But in actuality, the body hasn't been given the sufficient time to heal. So they go out and push themselves again, and they're right back in pain the way it was before. Because their mindset wasn't in a good place of looking at the broader perspective that they've been in pain for, months, years, sometimes even decades, and that something that's going to happen in an afternoon is not going to be sufficient healing time for them to have sustainability and longevity in their knee joint the rest of their life. So it's keeping that in perspective. The mindset piece is about taking care of yourself, focusing on recovery, and having your mind in a good place, both on those bad days and on those good days. So that's essentially like the 3-step process of physical, diet, and mindset to bring the body to a baseline, getting it to a place where now it's optimized to heal.
So what's coming up for me as you're talking is, okay, like I hear what you're saying, but to carve out space in my life for that is a huge challenge. I'm guessing that's one of the things you do when you work with people. I twisted my back a couple months ago. We were out of town, and right after that, I kind of had like some back pain in my lower back. We went on a long car trip. We were driving like pretty much cross country. And so it aggravated that pain, and I wasn't eating as healthy as I probably should have been because we were on the road. I was missing meals. I wasn't able to just stop our lives, what we were doing, to go and like get bed rest or do stretches or stay away from like riding in a vehicle to heal my back. And then I look around and there's like demands on my time. I've got to show up for Personality Hacker. I've got to be doing business stuff. I've got to do meetings. It feels like I can't just stop my life to heal. So what you're telling me is I might have to make some changes. They're going to conflict with, it's so much easier just to go to the doctor, right, and get a pain pill just to kill this and just keep going along. I always liken it to, your check engine light comes on in your car. You probably need to go get your engine fixed. But I think what drugs or like pain medicines do is it's like pulling the little bulb out of the check engine light. Well, that light's off now, so I just keep going on, driving my car like it works normal. But all I did was synthetically cut the light. Like there's still a problem there. So I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't get pain medicine, but it took a long time to heal because I didn't want to stop my life, stop the things that were going in my life. And I guess this theme as we're talking keeps coming up for me. It's going to take time. It's going to take me creating boundaries in my life for myself and others to say, look, I need this time to heal, or I need this space to heal. I might have to have Antonia, for example, you, Antonia, adapt a little bit in my healing process to help support me. Like maybe I can't do the podcast in a normal studio because I can't sit up in a chair for a couple weeks till my back feels better. We have to maybe do it maybe I have to stand. So we've got to reconfigure our studio, and you have to accommodate that. So I'm guessing there's a piece of this where you have to carve out space in your life to get to a place where you're now in a management of the healthy lifestyle, because it took a while to get into this pain. So it's going to take a while to get out, and you're going to have to put some intention around it. I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Is a theme that's coming up for me personally.
A lot of times healing doesn't take nearly as long as people think, if you understand the nervous system on a deep enough level. Generally what happens with the back is that there's been tension and stress that's built up for a long period of time, and then finally you bend over to pick up a Kleenex off the floor and your back goes out. Well, was it really the Kleenex, that big thing that blew your back out? Well, no, it's just the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And if we address the body on a nervous system level, if we're looking at your car trip, well, there's things you could be doing in the car. Usually there's tension that's going on in the pelvis that is contributing to the lower back. So there's things that I can give you to work on in the car that will help you even feel better after the car trip. While you're on the car trip, are you drinking water, or are you just sitting there getting dehydrated?
Well, if I drink water, then I got to stop to go to the bathroom a lot. So I try to drink water, but I'm like, oh crap, now I got to stop a million times.
And if you go one step deeper with that, is it because there's a mineral imbalance and your body can't actually absorb the water that you're drinking? So now, yeah, you're going through the motions of drinking the water, but the water's passing right out of you. So it's a mineral imbalance that needs to be addressed to get the body the proper balance of minerals when you are drinking water, so the body could actually absorb it and flush itself out the way it needs to. So there's lots of layers and there's lots of levels to look at it, and most of the time people are stuck in that pain tension loop. They're missing one of the components that I just spoke about, as far as addressing the tension pattern, creating a pain pattern interrupt, looking at inflammation in the body, and looking at the mindset piece. And when you drill down deep enough, you're going to find it's one of those components is not being addressed, and it's a big mover in terms of getting the body to feel a whole lot better.
So you specialize in helping people who are dealing with chronic physical pain, joint-related pain as a general rule. There's a lot of other styles of pain. There's people who deal with, like illnesses or diseases and that sort of thing. And then there's just people who want to maintenance their body to keep from ever become, like getting into pain if possible. So there's like the prevention, and then there's the people who deal with like very specific joint pain, and then there's people who deal with like other kinds of pain. Is the process you just mentioned, is it something that carries over into other styles of pain?
All I really teach people to do is recover faster. That's essentially what I do. So if you look at the practices of an Olympic level athlete or professional athlete, they're training recovery. That's their focus, is making sure they recover faster. And the faster they recover, the faster they can go and train again. And that's essentially what life is. It's like, well, when we go and play, whether it be, you name it, playing with your kids, going for a hike, going running, biking, dancing, whatever it is, that's like game day. And then what are we doing on that off time that is allowing us to get back to game day again? And most people don't look at it like that. They look at like, well, pain is different, and I get out of pain and I'm going back and doing the same dysfunctional things that got me into pain to begin with.
So then would you say part of that mindset piece, you talked about how if you're dealing with pain, you probably have something off in one of those three components you mentioned. In the mindset piece of that component, would you say that having an asynchronous relationship with pain, meaning you're thinking about the possibility, like if you've experienced pain, you're keeping tabs on that in time periods where you're not experiencing pain. And part of the mindset is being like, not obviously like always crafting your entire life around pain prevention, but just being aware enough or folding into your lifestyle components that are part of prevention, which is making sure that not only you're drinking enough water, but you don't have a mineral imbalance so that the water you drink is actually impacting you. Things like that. Like just making sure that you are doing due diligence, honoring your body during time periods where you're not actively getting a message from your body to your brain going, hey, there's a problem.
Yeah, I was working on an article today. Have you guys ever played Slug Bug?
Yeah.
In Cleveland, they call it padiddle. It's like if you see a light, headlights out, and the whole thing is to focus, look for something specific. So with Slug Bug, it's like we're looking for Volkswagens. And anytime you see a Volkswagen, the other person, whoever sees it first gets to punch the other person. When you're focused on the Volkswagens, you don't see any of the other cars on the road. You don't see the cops, you don't see the fire trucks, you don't see anything else. Your whole focus is on those Volkswagen cars. And it's the same thing with pain. When people experience pain, all they talk about is the pain. All they think about is the pain. Their stories are all around the pain. And what they're not looking at, going back to the slug bug example, they're not looking at the trees along the side of the road. They're not looking at the animals or the farms or the sky or the birds. They don't see any of that. All you're looking at is for that Volkswagen symbol. And it's the same thing with people with knee pain. Their whole focus is on the pain. And they don't see all of the things in their life they're missing out on. Their focus is strictly on the pain, which is how we're hardwired, really, from lizard brain, amygdala level. That's what we're designed, hardwired for. We look at and seek out the pain. But it takes a higher level person to step back for a moment and look at, what does that pain signify? What is it telling me? What information? I call it the art of transforming pain into information. Like, how can we take that information from our nervous system? Because pain is nothing more than information. Just like Joel was using the example of the check engine light on our dashboard goes on. That's information for what we need to do next. And many people in society, they experience pain and they double their efforts to put themselves into more pain.
So one of the reasons why I find, I'm not a person who's drawn to, being a healing coach, but I have in my achievement coaching practice, noticed that I'll run into people who actually, the more achievement they're attempting to do, the more pressure they're putting through the pipe, the more the cracks get exposed in the pipe, and the more healing becomes apparent. And what I've noticed is that when it's a physical thing, because I've coached people who deal with, chronic illness, a pre-existing condition, something that really feels like it hamstrings their lives. And I've noticed that with that healing component, the more they're in a physical healing mode, the more the energy that they could be applying to, like you talk about, Bill, a life that is playing to win, something that, a life that is meant to be thriving as opposed to simply playing not to lose. It's so difficult to get into that mindset because so much of their psychological and emotional energy is being poured into managing this condition or managing the pain or the trauma that's happening to their physical body. So while I'm not a person who usually thinks about this kind of thing, because it's not as much, it's not as interesting to me as maybe like personal development with emotional things or personal development when it comes to psychological things or perspectives or memes. I recognize that the body is a massive, massive node in the system of our personal development. If we're neglecting our bodies, if we are not listening to the information that our bodies are giving to us in the form of pain or in the form of, whatever it is we're talking about, if we don't listen to those, then a bunch of our emotional and psychological energy goes into just managing this thing, even if we're not actively thinking about it. Like that energy could be applied to building something or going to the next level, but we just can't do that because it's being applied to this, basically what amounts to a black hole. And so when you're on a personal development journey, neglecting your body, and maybe other people have this more tapped in than I do, but I have a tendency to neglect my body. I have a tendency to just go, right? Like I'm busy, I'm doing the next thing, I've got my fingers in a lot of pies, I'm like, oh, I'll get to eating when I can. And I try to set up circumstances where I'm eating healthy and eating nutrient-rich, a nutrient-rich diet. But honestly, I'm not as conscientious as I could be. And I'm not as conscientious about water as I could be. And I'm not as conscientious about sleep as I could be. I'm not as conscientious about these things as I could be. And I think one of the most powerful messages whenever I talk to somebody who does deal with healing coaching when it comes to the physical body is just a really well-needed reminder that this is a massive node in the system. Taking care of the body is so huge for making sure that we're living, as you mentioned, Bill, a life that is about winning as opposed to simply not losing. So I love conversations around this, especially, with reframes around how we can treat our body, reframes around how we experience or see or have what our story or relationship around pain is. I think it's super important. And especially if if you feel like you are stuck in your personal development process, if you feel like you are, you just keep hitting this glass ceiling and you're not sure why, and you are like me and have a tendency to neglect the body component of it, maybe that's something you need to check in with. Maybe that's what needs some attention. And going, checking with the body and letting the body speak to you and go, hey, these are the needs I have that are going unmet. And as long as you don't meet these needs, whether that be in pain, or maybe it's being 10 pounds overweight, or maybe it's that you have some skin issues, or maybe it's that you don't feel so good in the morning, or whatever it is that your body is trying to tell you, listening to those messages and going, okay, so this is something that I need to, as you mentioned, Joel, our tendency is to just go, well, I'll handle that later. But actually making the time, making the space in our life to go, okay, now I'm going to address this. I'm going to make sure that I do it with some intention, some thoughtfulness, and not just ignore those check engine lights, but actually listen to it and make some space in my life where I'm going to address my physical concerns.
And one thing that really comes to mind is the understanding that our physical body is the densest part of our reality. Our mind, our emotions, our spirit can change in an instant. But the physical body is the densest part. And you think of it, it's like the anchor point in this reality. And the more we create tension in that structure, the more difficult it is to integrate the changes that we want to take place on the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual levels. So the more we could free up that physical body of the tension and stress that builds up because of food, water, nutrition, the faster, if you want to self-actualize, or you want to move along your spiritual journey or your path in life, you have to let go of these physical patterns. They have to be addressed. You can't ignore them, and without your physical body bringing you back into that same reality.
You just shifted my perspective in seeing my body as basically the physical manifestation of all the other more software systems running in my life. If I use a computer metaphor, it's like the hardware or firmware that could be updated, but it takes longer than maybe, like you said, my mindset or my emotions that could be changed almost on a dime. It's latent. It's what my body's having an experience of today is latent to all my choices I made in my past, whether that's yesterday or a year or 10 years ago. The more healthy I keep this vessel that is kind of my physical, like you said, it's my dense part of my reality, that really enables me then to have those other pieces be more flexible, be more plastic, be able to change my perspective faster because I'm healthy. I'm not stuck in that reality so much of pain or something of that nature. This is good stuff. I know you deal with knee pain, and where can people find you online if maybe this is something they're struggling with? They just want to find out more about what you're about, what you do. Where can people find you and what you do?
Googling the Knee Pain Guru is one way of finding me. They can also go to my website, thekneepainguru.com. I'm on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, as well as my website. I have tons of YouTube videos. I've been putting this information up for the past 8 years online.
So if you would like to ask a question, leave a comment about this podcast specifically, you can do that over at personalityhacker.com. Directly below this podcast, there's an area there for you to leave comments and feedback, ask questions. You can also join our community of like minds. It's growing every week, every day. More and more people that want to do big things in their lives, want to focus on personal growth, and are really interested in understanding systems and models and personality systems in order to do that. You can find out more about joining that community over at facebook.com/personalityhacker, or we're also on twitter.com/personalityhack, HACK.
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can subscribe to us on iTunes and various Android platforms. And if you are in a particularly giving mood, if you leave a rating and review for us on iTunes, that really helps us out, helps cross-promote us, keeps us high in the charts, and is a gift that you can give to us.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
Our guest today has been Bill Parravano. Thanks, Bill, for being with us, and we'll see you on the next Personality Hacker episode.